I love hosting and having dinner parties, so this week I had some friends over for my birthday dinner party and I made truffle pasta in a cheese wheel, a butter candelabra, oyster, caviar, and cheese appetizers, and for dessert I made a giant vanilla cake topped with raspberries and tiramisu. I got started on prep the night before making the base layer of the butter candelabra, and then I made 2 sheet cakes for my raspberry cake. I also prepped the tiramisu, dividing the eggs, adding in sugar, vanilla, mascarpone, mixing everything all together, and then I dunked the ladyfingers in some coffee and started layering everything all together. I did 2 layers and then topped it with the rest of the cream and refrigerated that. The next day I set the table and then piped on all the little decorative butter onto the candelabra, then put it back into the fridge. I cut up the sheet cake and added that to a cake board, and then I made a mascarpone frosting, added that to the cake, and then topped that with a bunch of raspberries. I then started on my pasta. I made an extra large batch because I had 7 people over, so I added the eggs to my 00 flour, then mixed that up with a fork, and then went in with my hands to knead it all together. I pressed my thumb in to make sure it bounced back, and then I refrigerated it, thinned it out, and used my fettuccine attachment to cut it out. I got my giant cheese wheel out and then started carving the Parmesan out from the wheel to create a little well. I then started cutting up some brie and added raspberry jam onto some antique silver spoons for an appetizer, added in some pebble ice for the oysters, cut up a bunch of the different accompaniments for the oysters and caviar, opened up the caviar, added that to some pebble ice as well, and then started kind of placing everything, added the champagne to its bucket, added some kettle chips, some prosciutto, and then started lighting the candles for everyone's arrival. I popped some champagne, started pouring it into glasses, and then we all had a toast. I brought out the butter candelabra, which was a crowd favorite. A friend of mine shucked all the oysters for me so I didn't make a mess, and then we just enjoyed all the little appetizers. We had oysters, we had some bumps of caviar, and then I started cooking the pasta, added in some white wine to the well, started heating it up, and then started getting some of that cheese, added in the pasta with some pasta water, some pepper and salt, and then mixed that all together. Of course, I had to do a little taste test. It was so good. Then I started plating the pasta. I added on some black truffle shavings. We ate pasta. Then it was time for dessert. I blowed out all my candles, cut up the tiramisu, and put that into some silver coupes, dusted it with cocoa powder, and then we all huddled around the cake table and ate dessert. And then I ended the night blowing out my butter candles. Happy New Year. I love hosting and having dinner parties, so this week I had some friends over for Friendsgiving, and I made woven pie themed ravioli, mini pumpkin pie cheese and crackers, whipped ricotta with honey, pistachios, and dried cranberries, sparkling apple cider mocktails, an arugula salad with persimmons, burrata, and prosciutto, herbed cranberry chicken, and s'mores chocolate mousse for dessert. I got started making my pasta dough and my ravioli filling, and then thinned out my pasta dough and used alphabet cutters to cut out thankful, and then I added that on to my pasta sheet. I used my fettuccine attachment to cut out some fettuccine, and then I wove them together to create a woven pie themed ravioli. This was way more labor intensive than I thought it would be, so I ended up only making 3 with the woven pattern on top, and then I used my regular dough for the rest of the ravioli. They still ended up looking super cute and like pies. Then I got started on my pumpkin pie cheese and crackers, cutting out some cheddar cheese and using cream cheese as the whipped cream look-alike topping. I then started whipping up the ricotta and then plated that and added on pistachios, dried cranberries, and honey, and served that with some toasted bread. This is so great for Thanksgiving or Christmas through the holiday season. I made an apple cider mocktail with apple cider, ginger beer, and then topped it with some apples, pomegranates, and rosemary. I seared some chicken thighs and started making the herbed cranberry chicken, topping it with a balsamic vinegar, soy sauce, lemon juice, and honey mixture with some rosemary and cranberries. I baked that in the oven while I prepped my salad, dressing some arugula with a balsamic glaze, olive oil, then adding on persimmons, burrata, and some prosciutto. I cooked my ravioli in some brown butter, and here is the final product for our dinner. And then earlier in the day, I got started on our s'mores chocolate mousse, melting some chocolate with heavy whipping cream, making a graham cracker crust with some butter, adding that to coops. Then I whipped up some whipped cream, added in the cooled chocolate, then added the chocolate mousse to the coops. I let those rest in the fridge until we were ready for dessert. I then made a homemade marshmallow fluff and piped that on to the chocolate mousse, and then used my torch to toast it so we got the full s'mores experience. And here is the final product.